Yes, here we are. I'm thrilled and pleased to announce that finally, after more than 2 years of development, researching, feedback sessions, and everything, all of that, finally we're here to launch Rentman's multiple equipment locations features. And I'm not doing that alone today. I'm doing that together with Patrick. Patrick, you work at Peitzman. Can you tell me a bit more about yourself and Peitzman?
Yeah, we're now in one of our studios. I'm Patrick Bodderman. I work as a project manager at one of our 3 warehouses, the one in Utrecht.
Perfect. And you've been involved in developing multiple equipment locations, or at least providing us your feedback in this. Can you explain a bit how that went in the last 2 years?
Yeah, we started with 3 warehouses, and per warehouse we had a separate account for the warehouse, and we work with sub-rentals to rent equipment to each other.
Yeah.
But we lost track of the availability of the equipment, and we searched for a solution where we can have all the equipment in one account.
Yeah, there you go. And now Peitzman is actually one of our launching customers in this, meaning that you guys have been asked a lot for feedback in the past. It's been a while now. Can you take us back to how this all started? You came up with an idea or something that you wanted. Can you tell me a bit more about that?
Yeah, we worked really closely with Rentman and put the first ideas on draft, and then in later stages we had some concepts where we could provide some feedback, and they listened very well and put all those feedback in the solution we see now.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
And in terms of implementation, how did that go?
Pretty easy. If you have all the equipment and contact databases all aligned, I think you can be online in just one day. You can work on the multiple equipment location one day.
Yeah. Nice. That's cool. But in your case, I understood that it takes approximately a week to get everything settled before you were actually at that point.
Yeah, we had quite some work on syncing those databases. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, last week we were there at Peitzman in Rotterdam, and we have been taking a look at all their operations, what they've been doing exactly, and we together came up with this amazing video that we're going to take a look at now together.
We have 40 employees in 3 warehouses, almost 3,000 different items. Lights, audio, rigging, trusses, video equipment. Before Rentman, we were running into unexpected surprises. We didn't have an overview. We were discussing all day on the phone. We were losing equipment turning out not to be available. It was a mess. Peitzman supplies AV equipment and services for all sorts of productions.
Clients of ours are very different. It could be a theater, it could be a band, a musician, it could be a corporate event, festivals. Rentman is the software we're using to make sure that we get all our stuff right on time at the right place. When a client approaches us, we make a quote for them with a complete breakdown of all the crew and equipment that we need for the event. The packing list will be sent to the warehouse, and from that point on, the guys at the warehouse will make sure that the vans are filled with the equipment we need. There's a new function in Rentman, it's the multiple equipment location. With this function we can manage all of our equipment, which is divided over 3 warehouses, but we can manage it within one software package. So let's say I need 10 speakers, so I look in the software and the stock levels will tell me that in Rotterdam we have 8 speakers and the other 2 are available in Utrecht.
We know the stock levels on each and every warehouse and venue.
So Rentman is really helping us giving insights to all of our equipment divided over the 3 warehouses we have while using it the most efficient way.
The team is collaborating from one platform. It really ties the team together. I saw they really listened to our feedback and our wishes, how we worked in those warehouses. Efficient,
Quick
and reliable.
and smart. Rentman is helping us big time, yeah.
That's it. Like, this has been quite a project to come up with a video like this, and I must say we're just as proud of this as the feature itself. So thank you once again, Pijsbron, for having us on board and spending the day with us. It's been awesome. Thank you. So, enough said. We're going to take a look at multiple equipment locations together. So let me share you my screen, and let's dive in. Good. So what we have here is we're looking at a Rentman workspace, just a trial account, as everybody can set up, by the way. And if you do so, you will see the multiple timelines of equipment coming up within your equipment database already. So here we have it. Our item, and it has 3 different stock levels. In every equipment location, there's 1. Now, let me actually walk you through these first. You find here 2 warehouses, an eastern warehouse, a western warehouse, and a venue. These 2 are configured differently. So the eastern and western are both warehouses, and the venue is a storage location. Now, how that differs is you can start planning equipment on a project from a warehouse, not from a storage location. Storage location serves use cases like you have a band kit, for instance, laid apart, or you have this corner in the warehouse which holds equipment that you do not necessarily want to have within the stock that you actually plan from. Could also be that you have an OB truck, a grip truck, whatever, or you, a tour, for instance, as well. These are projects for an undetermined period. It lasts as long as it lasts. You'll just invoice it monthly or whatever. You just saw that with all the vaccination centers as well. So these are stock levels that you put separately. You cannot plan them anymore in projects. If you need any equipment from there, first of all, you would need the items to be planned from your storage location to the warehouse, and then it can move on to your project. We're going to take a closer look into all this. Let's start at the beginning. As you can see, on this date, we would have a total of 14 of the CDJ 2000s. Those 14 are being spread over 3 equipment locations, 8 of them in the eastern warehouse, 4 of them in the western, 2 of them in the venue. So in total, there were 14. Now, if you're going to focus on the eastern warehouse first, here you see that the item availability is indicated in 2 bars. Today we have 8 of the CDJ 2000s in our warehouse. However, because there are 3 leaving right now on a project that is confirmed, you will find only 5 within our warehouse. These 3 are leaving, so that's why we estimate there will only be 5. Now, out of the 5 that we have, 1 is in repair. So as a result, you only got 4 available according to your planning. Something that is in repair might not be able to be used anymore on different projects. Those 4, or actually 3 out of those 4, are being planned here upon the project that is still pending. As a result, you'll find that there's only 1 available according to your planning, but as the project is still pending, you also still find them within your warehouse, which is why there are still 5 to be found. Good. So far, nothing new, I guess, until I open up the Western warehouse timeline, which you now see not only subprints, but also internal subprints. An internal subprint actually is not the only part. And once you set up an internal subprint, automatically this leads to a project from the warehouse where you're subprinting equipment from. And those 2 will remain in sync. So let's say the Western warehouse set up this internal subprint. As a result, a project has been created in the Eastern warehouse, which one can get approved. And also from there on, it just follows the processes like every other project. It will come up within the project overview. It will come up within the warehouse. People start scanning, start packing, whatever they need to do to make sure that everything comes across. Second benefit to this is that as this is a project, you can also actually plan your logistics, for instance, to make sure everything gets shipped at the right time. Now, as explained, you can only plan equipment on projects once they are from a warehouse, not from a storage location. However, it's still possible, as you can see over here, to subprint items from your storage location. And if you do that, then a project will come up within venue in this case. So if you initiate your internal subprint from, in this case, the Western warehouse, that would result in a project in the storage location. However, it's not possible to add a project and then set the storage location as a source. Good. Now, let's take a look at different stuff than only this one. Here you would have filters that you'll find coming by more often in different modules as well. Now we're looking at the equipment database. If we now also move on to the maintenance module, for instance, you find the same thing. Here you can just filter on the repairs or before all the equipment coming from this one warehouse. I've cheated a bit because in this case I've grouped per warehouse. So it's a second approach. Everybody can decide whatever they like best. Now, again, this filter is something you find coming by more often. Also counts with projects, obviously. And some second thing in the project also changed, which is the timeline. We now added the project type internal rental projects. Those are all the counter projects as a result of an internal subrent. This way we group them and everybody can easily see which one is assigned to their warehouse. Perfect. Now, if we add a project, as the same as before, you can do that on 4 different ways. Either you start from an e-commerce platform. Secondly, you could start from a blank project. However, cannot recommend that because then you need to start from point blank, obviously. That's why sometimes it can be more helpful to duplicate a project you've done in the past because it's already pretty similar to the thing you're setting up. More efficient actually is still to use a project template. Using a project template allows you to come up from a certain basis. So you don't have to set up that all the specifics or all the details over and over again. You can just start from your basis. And that project template became more important right now, and that's because of the stock location. So this way now you can say, if I start that project template, automatically I start taking out stock out of the Eastern warehouse, Western warehouse, whatever applies. So stock location is associated with your project. However, your project could hold multiple sub-projects, and then every sub-project has their own stock location. That way you can say, I've got one project, 2 sub-projects, every sub-project taking equipment from a different warehouse. If that's the ideal solution, probably. In some use cases, it definitely will. However, sometimes it's also a bit more helpful to just exchange your equipment by using the shortages overview. So here, if I now select my item, I can here say that I need to subrent shortages, but obviously that's also something I can do from my shortages overview, where the benefit is that I will see everything, of course. Now I can see all the shortages in my Eastern warehouse compared to my Western warehouse. I can actually quite easily switch between those. Now let's say I need all the items from Concert at the Valley, maybe combine it with this one because one logistics, one times the drive is more than enough. Now I can subrent this, and if I subrent this, I decide if I'm going to subrent this externally or internally. Now, internal one is obviously new. Now the magic happens. Here I can select, I need this from the Eastern warehouse to the Western warehouse. Here we go. Now, if I save this, 2 things happen. First of all, my internal subrent came up, which you can find over here within my subrentals. Secondly, a counter project came up, which you can now find here within my projects overview. This one, as explained before, these 2 are in sync. So if I would now change anything within the internal subrent, let's say I need 4 CDJ2000s instead of 3, for instance, then I can change it into my internal subrent. Automatically, it will get changed here as well. That also counts for statuses. Once I confirm a subrental, internal subrental, automatically the project gets confirmed, etc. In this case, I've done a very poor job, by the way, because I've been subrenting equipment which are all insured in this new warehouse. So maybe I should learn something, but hey, this is new to all of us. Okay, good. Now let's move on to the here we go. To the overview of the stock locations. Again, equipment, and then move on to your stock locations. Here you find the Eastern warehouse, the Western warehouse, and the venue. Here you can list all your new stock locations and determine per stock location either if it's a warehouse or a storage location. In terms of equipment, if I would open up a bulk item, like this SM58 microphone, I can assign stock levels to every warehouse and I can already plan them. So now I can say I've purchased 5 additional SM58s. Those will be supplied on the 3rd of March, and they will be supplied at the Eastern warehouse. Now, this is something that I can already do. What I can also do, but that's more on serialized items, assign a serial number for every storage location. So now you can see this serial number is assigned to the Eastern location. I might as well just assign to the Western location. This is something that we try to do, that we are improving. Right now, internal subrent is the only way to exchange items from one platform, from one warehouse to the other. And transfers, something exchanging some for an undetermined period is something in development. If you are a user and you're running into use cases like this, please let us know. We would be happy to have your feedback and take it into consideration for future use. Good. Thank you. So, if you have any questions in regards to what you just saw, let us know. We have a group of colleagues ready for you at Q&A. For now, let me share my screen. Here we go. And let's have Rick coming over. Rick is a product manager at Rentman. He has been involved in setting up multiple equipment locations ever since the beginning. Welcome, Rick.
Hello.
Hey.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, sure. How did all this came up?
Yeah, it's been an idea for us for the last 3 years to build a feature that could cope with multiple warehousing or multiple equipment locations. And a lot of clients came to us and asking about this feature because, yeah, we understand that not all companies can make do with a single location. Mm-hmm. They merge 2 companies into a single company, or they have they're just growing so much. They grow so much that all the equipment didn't fit in one location anymore, so they rent another one, or they have just separate equipment, like a fixed venue, a hotel where there's like equipment fixed in there, equipment separated from the rest, essentially, because that's the real use case. And yeah, we saw this as an opportunity to grow Rentman as a product as well. So yeah, we took those wishes and requests to heart, and we try to build a feature that they can really help in those situations.
Now, this is a project that you guys have been working on for over 2 years. Yeah. Can you just take us back to the very first beginning? Where do you start something like this?
Yeah, generally when we start building a new feature, we try to talk to a lot of clients and users for Rentman because, yeah, we believe that we know good software. We got trained to build good software, program it, build good UIs, good user interface, and that's what we're good at. But the thing is, our clients know best what situations they run into, what problems they need solving, and that's why we really want to talk to our clients and take them every step of the way with our discovery process, design process, development process, and take them with us and see and make sure that we are building the right thing for them. And that's important for us, that we build something that they actually can use, because otherwise it's no point in building, of course.
No, fair enough. It's eventually their problems that you like to solve, right?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
How do you involve customers in something like this?
Yeah, it starts with the discovery process. That means that we are trying to validate all kinds of assumptions. So we try to get a good grip of the problem they're having. Mm-hmm. It's always a little digging deeper into the problems. They sometimes they just want to have a certain feature. They call it a feature, but we want to dig deeper into what is the actual problem. We're trying to solve that problem, and with the best solution we can think of. And that happens in the design phase of that process. Mm-hmm. So we're trying to come up with designs, and those designs get tested then on the actual users. So we are asking them, hey, do you understand what you're seeing here? And is it actually solving your problem? And the last step is, of course, the development process. It's generally a longer period that we build intermediate versions that we test on the users and say, like, is this the right way? Or does it work like you expect it to do? And it's a more interactive collaboration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you are receiving all that feedback, if you're processing this, I can imagine that there are some use cases which are very similar to each other, also use cases which are completely different. What are the ones that you chose to develop for? Yeah,
we for this feature, we really chose to go for a kind of a broad solution, because we believe that in every company there's a use case where equipment gets separated from the other equipment. Mm. They just don't want to have them mixed together. You can think of like just to warehouses, most common use case, but also to in a use case where just equipment belongs to one artist you're helping, and in that equipment you don't want to mix with the rest. Also, a good use case could be that you have just a section in your warehouse where you temporarily store a couple of items, or a hotel, maybe your hotel or a venue where there's equipment fixed. Yeah, there's also sometimes just interesting use cases from clients. For example, one client really came to us and they are providing stuff for or equipment for vaccination centers in the Netherlands. And yeah, it's also an interesting thing because they don't exactly know when the equipment is not used anymore. Yeah, because it's very unpredictable, everything. So in that case, they really want to have that equipment separate from the rest, which was an interesting use case for us also to investigate.
I guess this also comes across something that not only, I mean, multiple equipment locations sounds like a feature that's being used by big companies. However, that doesn't have to be the case.
No, I really believe that all kind of companies, from small to bigger ones, can have a use case where there's just equipment separate from the rest. I think, yeah,
fair enough. Now, also from my position, I mean, I'm in sales. This took over 2 years.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, it is a very complex feature, and then I can explain a little bit why. The availability reservation system in Rentman is one of the more core equipment products we have. So but it's also the most complex one. You can imagine that it's not just looking at a time frame, summing up what's there, but it's actually, you have overlaps, you have inspections, repairs, early returns, delayed returns, stuff like that, and that really makes the whole situation quite complex. And if you then choose to also add another layer on top of that, which sort of makes everything even more complex, that's why it really takes a long time to really think of how can we make this very simple. Because that's, in the end, I think the biggest challenge that we had, is that we really want to make this feature very powerful, but still simple to the user.
Yeah. And I can imagine, actually I saw it, you decided to come up with this in multiple phases, right?
Yeah, that's correct. We started with the first phase, that's what we call the floating stock phase. That's the first iteration that we did on our availability system, is by not having all accounts have all equipment have a base stock that don't change, like a static one, but a dynamic one. So it means that you can plan stock fluctuations in the future. Like, for example, you buy equipment in 5 years, or that's a bit long, but in a couple of months. Sure. Yeah. And then you want to have that equipment taken into account in your availability at that moment that it actually arrives. The same happens with if you move equipment between locations. You also need to take into account the equipment that has moved from one location to the other one. So there also you cannot just calculate a static amount. So that was the first phase. It was already the most complex one. That was delivered over 1.5 years ago. So now, and then we moved into the second phase, which was essentially setting up the storage locations. So not having a single number of availability or stock level, but multiple, unlimited amounts, and that really opened up the possibilities for those separate sections, but still equipment couldn't move between those locations. So that is the third phase, and that's what we are launching today, is that you also can sub-rent internally equipment from one place to another, which really solves the majority of the user cases to solve all the use cases with that surrounds multiple equipment locations.
Fair enough. Thanks for that insight. You've made it pretty clear that we have made something that was already complex even more complex. But apart from that, were there any other challenges worth mentioning?
Yeah. With such a complex feature, it's really hard to make it also understandable to the user. There's a lot going on with calculations, availability, how we really want to make this feature still usable to your average Joe, the guy who just started at your company. You want to not having him being part of a onboarding program for 6 months in order to understand the software you're using at your company. So we really believe that the software should be simple to use, and that's the most challenging thing to do, because having a complex system and showing it in a simple way to the user is, I think, a very powerful thing and also a very important thing to do. So that's what we focused on a lot, and we really try to involve the user in that to understand how can we make this simple. Do you still understand what's going on? Do you can you handle the system? Can you work with it? And that was very important for this development.
Because so far I've been hearing a very customer-centric approach, so to say. Have you taken competitors into account as well?
Yeah, of course. We always take a look at the competitors. We're really trying to find our own strength and seeing how we can evolve. Obviously, there's also competitors that have this feature, but we believe that we really distinguish ourselves in the easiness of use, but also in the way of supporting all the use cases, also included into repairs, including into the warehouse, including in all the flows you have at your company. We really try to make a complete product and not build a feature just for, I don't know, just adding one number or having equipment A only be available in A and you cannot move it to warehouse B. So those kind of examples, what we see at competitors, we really didn't want to go that direction.
Fair enough. Now, as said in the beginning, we have been developing Rentman multiple equipment locations to such a point where equipment can already be internally subrented. However, we are also looking into the use case of transferring equipment, which is more for an undetermined period. So that's something for the future. I'm asking this, by the way, I'm saying this to ask if anybody has any feedback in this. If you run into use cases where this comes by often, please let us know. We'd be happy to get in touch. Anything else on the roadmap so far for this kind of stuff?
Yeah, we're looking at all kinds of various things, of course, on equipment planning. But for us, right now, we really started focusing on those transfers, like you told us. We're now investigating all the use cases. We're trying to design a mock-up for this feature, trying to test it already with a couple of users. We've been in touch with Patrick from Bijtsman to also understand what his use cases would be for transferring equipment, because transferring equipment it will be done in two ways. First, we will start on actually planning a transfer. Like I want to make sure that some equipment moves from warehouse A to warehouse B at a certain time frame in the future, for example, in 2 weeks. So if a project happens then in warehouse B, after those 2 weeks, you want to take that equipment into account in your availability. So that's the first step. But you can also imagine that if you use internal separations for equipment, you expect the equipment to go back, but that doesn't always is the case, because sometimes during the event or sometimes someone calls like, I want to keep the equipment because I have another project coming up, a last minute one. Then you can also decide to let that equipment stay at the location that it already is, and then essentially make it or to convert it into a transfer. And the third one is really it would also help you setting up your multiple equipment locations setup in Rentman, because you can use then also to start with a single location and then use the transfer to move equipment to the new location, and it might help you setting up this feature also more easily.
Fair. And why did this only become available for the new license?
Yeah, it's a good question. Like we already told, this is a complex system. We invested over 2 years of our resources into this. And we think it's fair that the ones that benefit the most from this feature would also cover the cost of this investment. So our new licensing structure allows us to create more flexible pricing in that case. So we can make this feature available to the ones that use it the most, and also let them pay the most. So people that have a very small use case for it, they can start relatively cheap. And the ones that have a very big benefit of this feature will pay the majority of it.
Yeah, fair enough. Because to make this complete, just make it very clear that the storage location is actually offered for free, where the warehouse is something that you're being charged for. last but not least, do you have any advice on customers that like to start using this? How can they start using this?
Yeah, if you really want to set up your equipment, starting with multiple equipment locations, I would advise to create like a new trial on the website, so you can trial the feature because it's already present in the trials nowadays, and you can just try to set it up how you would like it. It wouldn't interfere with your normal day-to-day and your normal production account, so I think there. It's a nice way to try it out, and then if you're ready, you can convert it to your actual environment and activate your license yourself.
Sounds good. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for the insights. Yes, before I've asked you to come up with your questions, if there are any. While I'm asking my colleagues to please have them joining the office. For now, let me say hi to Patrick again and ask him the first question that we have, because so far we have been taking a look very much at a theoretical approach to all this. But I'd like to ask you some questions in regards to the practice. You've already made it clear, stock levels, that was a biggie. The internal sub-rents, how is that working out in practice?
Well, the internal sub-rents help us a lot with creating the overview where to move the stuff to.
Mm-hmm.
We use it per project. So we make per project we arrange our rentals, our sub-rentals. So our internal sub-rents will have I'm lost.
From what we talked about before, I understood correctly that in practice you already packing your internal sub-rents for every production.
That's correct.
So as soon as it hits the warehouse where it actually is planned from, then already it's pre-packed and it can just leave the warehouse, right?
Exactly that. Yeah.
Here you go.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Helps us a lot.
Makes it. Thank you. Question from the audience: is it possible to change the warehouse a product is logged into by scanning the bar or QR code?
Yes, we made it possible. During the warehouse, if you scan a serial number, because it has to be a serial number, bulk items, it doesn't work like that. So the serial number is being scanned in a warehouse that it actually isn't at the right moment. We give a soft warning, and what we call a soft warning is you're not blocked, but you get an option to, with a click of a button, change also the location of that serial number in one go. You have to pay a little attention during your scanning, of course, but it's definitely possible.
Perfect. Other question coming in. I have a warehouse in Norway and one in Denmark. Is multiple equipment locations any good for me?
Yes, technically you could work with this, but I have to say, if you give me this example, like with Sweden and Denmark, I can imagine there are different currencies between those warehouses. That projects that start in Sweden have different financial consequences of the one that starts in Denmark. So I can believe that there are probably two different legal entities, and in that case, having different tax systems, financials, accounting software connected, I can probably think that it is probably a better idea to set up two different accounts and use our digital sub-rent feature to exchange equipment between those locations.
So in those cases, if they would approach Rentman purely as a planning piece of software, then it could actually work out.
Yes, definitely.
From a financial point of view, not so much.
Correct.
That makes sense. Good. Can you talk about the crew planner with multiple warehouses? I share crew and trucks between each two.
Yes, but it is currently not inside scope, so we cannot really see in the software right now where crew is located and where trucks are located. But you can still plan the same crew and trucks from each location. But tracking where each truck is on which location is something you would have to do yourself right now. Yeah.
And it's actually quite easy to filter those projects who are coming up from warehouse A versus those from warehouse B, for instance.
Correct. You definitely can filter in the crew planner view to see only the projects for warehouse A or the projects for warehouse B. Correct.
Is it something that you guys are running into as well? or have you solved this way?
No, no. We have a clear overview of all the trucks we have, and we plan them per warehouse.
Yeah, fair enough.
So they're not shared between the locations.
Yeah, we share a lot
Yeah,
between the
exactly.
locations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Fair enough. Can you explain the stock and storage location again? What is the difference to the warehouse?
Shall I take this one?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I think the main difference between a stock and a storage location. The stock location is a general term we use for both a storage location and a warehouse. So what it means that a warehouse is a stock location where you plan your projects from. So that equipment, you can imagine it's a warehouse. The storage location is more like the fixed venue, the hotel that doesn't really run their own projects, but just provides equipment to the big projects you're planning from your warehouse. Or that tour bus, or that holds equipment, or that like we here at Ahoy, Bijtsman have equipment separated from their other projects. So the equipment that stays here is then being used as a storage location. I think also an important difference is that the storage locations are free. You can use unlimited amounts of them in your account, and the warehouse locations are paid per license. Yeah.
Fair enough. Good. If any of you have more questions, then please let us know. We're happy to have them. One last question that came in. I sometimes only want to transfer stuff, so no internal sub-rents, but more like undetermined period. Can you explain again what we're aiming for?
Yeah, that's exactly the phase 4 that we previously talked about. You move equipment. So if it's not part of if it's part of a project, you probably want to plan multiple of them at the same time. If that's not the case, you can already do it. So if it's only a single equipment you just want to move, you can do that. We added a button in the equipment stock overview, and there you can just put in a date, put in an amount, and say, okay, from that moment on, this equipment has been moved. There's no planning part of that, no logistics. So for that, you really have to wait on the phase 4 internal transfers.
Perfect. Thank you. I see there are no more questions are coming in. So I'd like to thank all our viewers on both YouTube, Facebook, and wherever. I'd like to thank you, both gentlemen. I'd like to thank Bijtsman for having us. And see you next time.